This is what we could have had. Oh my god. Nah, you're kidding me, dude. Look at this. Yes, dude, let's go. Oh man. How's it going, everybody? It's your boy iVolt, and today I wanted to cover. It's a very amazing project that never made it. So, in case you're wondering, why do we not have any Superman games or things like that? Well, there was a game studio and game developer, or a bunch of game developers, working on an amazing Superman game project called Blue Steel, which in itself sounded amazing, but it got cancelled. And this happened like over a decade ago, so, it's been a while. But at the same time, it is very, very tragic. So we're going to be going through this post by Dev Salvatrix, and this was made on March 13th, 2022. So we're gonna be going through this entire thing, looking at some footage. I've got some stuff open. Make sure to go follow Dev Salvatrix over on Twitter. So yeah, let's start reading it. It's got a bunch of cool information, so I do suggest that you stick around because I mean, I love finding out what happened and what we could have had, and I've skimmed through this before, and Salvatrix said that this is one of the only projects that just, they're just devastated over not making it. So here we go. Listen, if you guys are new to the channel, you want me to cover more stuff like this, make sure to subscribe. I would love to cover more cancelled games like I've talked about and played the cancelled Spider-Man 4 game, and today we're going to be covering the Superman one. So let's go through this. In 2007/2008, so it's been about 14 years now, I was lead designer on a Superman game that never released because the Great Recession happened and the economy crashed hard. It killed our publisher, Brash Entertainment, our studio, Factor 5, and the game. I have multiple unreleased games throughout my career, but this is the only one I'm on to this day. I originally wrote about this a year ago on my Twitter. My account was very small then, and I really only put up the initial tweets so that I could link it to some friends to show them this amazing project I had been a part of. And then I immediately moved on these tweets out of my head. And then almost 2 weeks later, somebody found the thread, and more someones, lots of someones. The thread went viral, picked up 100 followers overnight. Game journalists started writing articles about my tweets. I was, to say the least, caught completely off guard. Put out a lot of information in the thread, but Twitter isn't exactly the best format for a big info dump. I did my best, so it's gonna be a long read. And look, you can already see an amazing concept art here of Superman versus Doomsday. Look at that. It looks awesome, dude. Wow. Like, I love that art. I love the classic Superman there. Oh, that's gorgeous. What we could have had, man. What we could have had. So before Blue Steel, I joined Factor 5 in January of 2003 as a mission designer on the GameCube Rogue Squadron series, focusing primarily on co-op and versus modes for Rebel Strike. After that game shipped, the entire team worked on a series of different game concepts but none found significant traction until we signed a deal with Sony to work on 2 games, Lair and Animal Wars. Lair was the main project, fully greenlit with a large budget that grew that team extremely quickly. Animal Wars was a smaller passion project of designer Chris Crawford and concept artist Jim Moore. I'll cover Animal Wars with much greater depth in a future article, but for now, just note that it was a small project that Sony funded for pre-production. I joined that team as a second designer on a team of 12 to 14 people. The team gelled extremely well, and there was a lot of admiration for the work we were doing. But it was a quirky game, ultimately too quirky for a launch title, and Sony cancelled it. At that point, our entire crew was folded into the Lair team, a project clearly in deep trouble. It was a death march crunch kind of project where we all knew it wasn't working out, but we all still pushed ourselves to try and make whatever part we were working on as good as it could be. The morale on the team was bleak, and the launch ended up being an infamous failure. Many of us were actively starting to look to other studios. Our management had something in the works, something big that they couldn't tell us until the deal was signed. Recognizing our previous success despite the cancellations, they wanted to reform our Animal Wars team to head up this new project. And we're sure they knew about this content because they're practically begging us to hold on while they finalize the deal. So, Superman! Yeah, there it is. Finally, my design partner and I were called into the CEO's office because the deal was done, and he could finally share the exciting opportunity he was going to hand us. Superman, specifically a Superman game intended to be released alongside the sequel to Bryan Singer's Superman Returns. Imagine how amazing that could have been. I have to be honest, Chris and I were less than thrilled. Superman has a well-deserved legacy of being a failed game IP. While much of this might be attributed to failures of execution, the reality is that Superman in many ways isn't the most interesting character to play as. It's essentially a god, and a lot of interesting game design comes from constraints on what is allowed, not in being able to do anything. An idea observation might upset many Superman fans out there, but really, most of the best Superman stories are character-driven, not action. That is very true. I mean, there is some good stories with action and story, like All Star Superman. It's one of the best stories, if not the best Superman story of all time, at least personally to me. And in that story, Superman's absolutely just the most overpowered he's ever been. It's insane. And for a mainstream mass market action game intended to release alongside a summer tentpole film, we needed a solid action game, but really we weren't even close to that point yet. We just knew that the gaming history of the IP was pretty poor, and that neither of us felt remotely invested in the character either. So we walked out of the meeting kicking ourselves for not sending out resumes sooner and left the office early. So Superman versus Livewire. Dude, that looks awesome too. Wow. Nice. But we are both also industry veterans and experienced in our craft as creative professionals. Initial bitterness gave way to turning it over and over in our heads overnight, independently of each other, unaware that each of us were already going down similar lines of thinking. That's why we repeatedly made a great team, and why Factor 5 wanted us together to head this up. Next morning, we both showed up to work. Immediately we're saying to each other, I have an idea. This for the next number of weeks, riffing off each other and with some other folks on the team. These early ideas had a lot of interesting elements, but none of them were viable for our needs. Mainstream action game to co-release with the summer tentpole. For more story-oriented fans, many of those ideas would likely have thrilled them. But again, not what we needed. Part of an experienced game designer isn't just to have good game ideas, but instead I can figure out a game that could fit production realities and market goals. You know, you gotta crunch to get there, which is a shame when you have such a time constraint, considering you had to release it with the actual movie Superman Returns. So during this time, we'll immerse ourselves in the IP, every Superman game ever made, all the movies, many of the best-loved comic story arcs in the animated series of the time, Superman, Justice League, and Justice League Unlimited. Amazing shows. Amazing shows, 100%. Finally, we flew to San Diego to meet our publisher, Brush Entertainment. Brush never got much of a chance to establish its footing, but the premise was to be a publisher that focused on movie-based games that weren't the fast cash grabs that movie tie-ins usually were. They were largely backed by folks at Legendary Pictures and were staffed by folks that worked on high-profile IPs. And one very clear thing that came out of that meeting was the confirmation that the game was expected to be a mass-market action game, which we were assuming to be the case, but now we knew for certain. All those ideas focusing on Clark as an investigative reporter while balancing his duties as a protector of Metropolis in a triage type of game, and many other ideas they were at. We needed action, and it didn't take very long for this direction to take shape. And look at this gorgeous concept art of Superman absolutely knocking the hell out of Darkseid, dude. Oh, dude, that's so clean. Nice. So, in the cab ride from the Brush offices back to the airport, the heart of Blue Steel sprung into existence. Super Brawls. I had rewatched the Justice League Unlimited cartoons multiple times, focused on them as being the most video game-like. Justice League Unlimited did have some good character stories too, but it had also some fantastic Super Brawl set pieces. Pure action. It had villains that went toe-to-toe with Supes. I grew up reading comics and couldn't think of any other game that ever really did on that premise. That premise. Some aspect was always missing, the environments were too constrained, the movement was too limited, or the sense of the power wasn't delivered upon. But this unrealized dream is what I want to put into players' hands, and we only had a foundation to do so. Our previous failure, Lair. One of the biggest challenges for a Super Brawl game is flight. That flight, or with limited flight, you can't deliver fully on the premise. Merging free flight with melee brawling is a controls challenge in a large urban environment, as opposed to small tightly controlled arena type map. A controls nightmare really, especially if it was going to be easy pick up and play gameplay, kind of important for a mass market game. But Lair already had an aerial grappling melee mode. It wasn't a good mode, but that is because the mode was proposed in the last few months of development and had limited resources, time, and the durations to really make it shine. A total of 1 month was spent on it, but the idea was a good one. It just needed a chance to be developed to the level it deserved. Also worth noting that this aerial melee mode in Lair was the creation of Chris Crawford, the other designer, heading up Blue Steel, and to this day one of the best designers I've ever worked with. So in the back of that cab, I put these ideas together in a vision of Blue Steel Super Brawls formed. To fulfill the promise, I focused on the following needs. And here we go. Power. Every attack with super ability had to sell that sense of power. If I punched someone, they needed to not just fly back, they needed to impact the environment, cross craters, furrows, or crash through objects, and even buildings. See, that already sounds incredible, dude. Two super beings slamming into each other should send shockwaves to shatter windows. Even just leaping into flight or landing hard could cause some degree of environmental impact. Everything had to sell a sense of power, which I do agree with. You need that for a game that has Superman in it 100%. Freedom of movement. Players had to be able to freely fly around the play space, but never struggle to engage an enemy. If the player ever felt they were fighting the controls or struggling to engage an enemy in melee, we were going to fail. But this is where the aerial grappling from Lair came in, and unlike Lair, it was a design focus for us from the beginning. We invested a lot of time and resources into nailing this, because it was so core to the premise. Simply lock onto the enemy you want and your movement would become oriented with your foe, while locked movement would be relative towards your opponent, and holding any attack to charge that will send you hurtling towards your foe, just as seen in countless comics and cartoons. There's a lot of subtle movement, pathing, automation to make this seamless, but even being on the other side of a building would not be an obstacle. But you are Superman and can punch right through buildings. Even better, our design could incorporate non-flying characters as long as that's super leap, such as Solomon Grundy. Nice, nice. Large urban environments. Yes, super brawls can happen anywhere, but without large urban environments that were interactive and alive feeling, then the premise would never be fully realized. That absence would be noted, but rendering such a large environment is resource expensive, especially in 2007. But again, we already had strong technical foundation to render massive environments in a flight-based game from there. There was a failure in terms of coming together as a game on many levels, but it also had a ton of great technical achievements under the hood. And so building on this was another place where we invested heavily early, and it paid off. We could build urban environments of over 100 city blocks. Ultimately, we settled on 20 to 30 blocks being as ideal for gameplay mechanics, but our engine could handle far away and above that. Nice. So there's Superman versus Lapwire once again, and that looks clean in itself too. Awesome concept art, I love it, man. The pitch. So with the above points in mind, upon our return to the studio, I put together the above video compilation based on footage from the animated series to show Atari's power, movement, and environment. So I think this is like when Shazam and Superman fought. It's important to note that just the destruction, selling power to building punctures, but that movement wasn't just a path to combat. That was frequently part of the combat. Whether that was winding up big hits while racing through the air, or actually grappled together in a melee brawl while simultaneously crashing through buildings. These three elements listed above didn't just need to exist, they needed to exist all at once, in cohesion, in unison, seamlessly. And we did it. By the end of pre-production, we had fully playable foundation of a game that did all this. Aerial brawling, large urban environments, crashing through buildings, fast target engagement, knocking your foe into the next block, shockwaves from hits, impact grooves in the street, buildings, all of it. Also, there is footage that I have to show you, so, don't worry, you'll see it. We hadn't seen the game really deliver on that premise before, and to be honest, I've yet to see it delivered fully since. With it completely working as a prototype, and we're shifting to full production when the crash hit. All the main gameplay was in place and had been proven out. And then we have the tone. Okay, so the other big critical aspect of the game would have been the tone. Super Brawls would only work if Superman's facing foes on each level, opponents that can be a meaningful threat. We couldn't have Superman beating up on living beings weaker to him. He's the Blue Boy Scout after all, and we didn't want to repeat past mistakes of Supes fighting legions of boring robots or such either. Also, didn't want to lean into Kryptonite. Kryptonite's a really boring weakness from a gameplay perspective and mostly comes off feeling like a design crutch. We very much did not want to bring Superman down in power. I can respect that. We wanted to deliver the power fantasy instead, so we just banned Kryptonite as a design element pretty much from the beginning. We didn't want to go the magic route either because again it strips away from the power fantasy. Worse, everyone knows about Kryptonite in regards to Superman, his weakness to magic isn't really that mainstream. Many players would have likely thought we were just making it up. Again, it's a design crutch, so that's off the table. Yeah, he's weak to magic and Kryptonite. We instead focused on foes that could be a threat, a direction heavily encouraged by Brash. They even relate to us that early discussions of the next Singer Superman film was going to lean the same way, likely featuring Darkseid as a companion game release, even though our game was intentionally not based on the movie itself, but instead as a simultaneously released event game. It's very favored that we lean into the darker, grimmer direction. Mind you, this was all well before Zack Snyder and his even darker revision for the IP was anywhere in the picture. Basically, it was time for the gloves to come off, and so I made a second Touchstone video compilation to communicate the direction to the team. And this is where Superman stops holding back and absolutely starts destroying Darkseid in the city. And there's a bunch of shock waves flying through buildings. It's amazing. I can't play it because of copyright, but you know, you can go over here and check it out for yourself. And so we had 100% buy-in from all the stakeholders. For anyone that has ever worked on major IP, well, this was no small feat. I presented a pitch not just to our publisher, acting on behalf of Legendary, but also to reps from both Warner Brothers and DC. I was deeply passionate about the project by this point, and the stakeholders appreciated and shared my enthusiasm. The gameplay. So here we're finally at the main bread and butter of the actual game. So as mentioned previously, we spent a lot of time proving out and iterating upon key game mechanics. During this time, our prototype assets were blocky by intent. Previous projects have shown me that as soon as you start inserting more a shippable level of art, but too many folks start to focus on visual elements more than core mechanics, and that's completely fair. The game is going to be at its core brawler. Casual players could pick up and play and button mash to a possible degree, but invested players would be able to really dig into mastering combos and hitboxes, animation frame timing, and all that. If it sounds like I'm glossing over these details, then I am. At the end of the day, I'm not a combat designer. I assisted in designing the broad strokes of the fight mechanics, and the overall vision was mine. I had a lot of assistance in implementing the finer details of the great brawler mechanics. And of course, there were superpowers as well: freeze breath, heat vision, etc., and knockbacks, and follow-up challenges, which sounded awesome. So now, targeting and movement. Targeting was going to feature a lot of automated assistance. There was the aforementioned locking onto a specific foe, but a player could choose to just trigger attacks. And those attacks would attempt to smartly engage enemies nearby based on many
rules established depending on attack type. Further down in the prototype gameplay video, there are many debug elements being shown. One of those are targeting spheres. Green indicates a target that is locked on, gray is just a target that the soft assist would try to engage. Even movement held a lot of soft assistance. In combat, as discussed above, characters could most certainly crash through the environment on their way to a target, but good characters where possible would try to gently dodge around or pass obstacles to minimize destruction. Meanwhile, evil characters would show no hesitancy to wreak careless havoc. And of course, there were the building punctures. Those were entirely procedural. You could puncture into any building if moving at high speed. A hole would be placed at the puncture site. An instant's floor would be instantly snapped into place. This way, Traveler combat could continue while moving through the building until crashing through the other side. That sounds really cool. So, mission structure and game modes. While many sites at various points had reported rumors that Blue Steel was to be an open-world game, such was not the case. While the engine could easily support doing so, we decided a more linear mission structure felt better and could tell a better narrative for our purposes. We were instead going to have 3 campaign arcs, each broken into a series of missions in a variety of settings. While Metropolis was clearly going to be a centerpiece setting, it was not going to be the only locale. Other planned settings included Apocalypse, Smallville, and Krypton. Dude, that sounds awesome. In addition to the single-player story mode, we're planning to support a 2-player online versus mode. Over a dozen playable characters will be supported in this manner. Dude, this was such an ambitious project. So here we have the project. So you had episode 1, Apocalypse, chapter 1, Metropolis, Kalibak, you'd fight, chapter 2,
Metropolis Female Furies, Chapter 3 Skies of Metropolis Steppenwolf. Oh my god, dude, this would have been incredible. Chapter 4 Smallville Brimstone, Chapter 5 Apocalypse Female Furies again, and then Chapter 6 Apocalypse Darkseid, dude. And I assume you would be able to play as all of these characters online. Episode 2 Krypton. Damn, you start off right in Chapter 1 against Doomsday. Chapter 2 Phantasm Zone, Ursa and Non. Chapter 3 Metropolis, Ursa, Non and Zod. Chapter 4 Skies of Metropolis, Brainiac's ship. And Chapter 5 Shattered Krypton, Brainiac. Oh man. And then Episode 3 LexCorp. Chapter 1 Metropolis, you'd fight against Livewire. Chapter 2 Solomon Grundy. Chapter 3, oh man, Metropolis, Cyborg, Superman and Bizarro. And Chapter 4 Power Suit Lex. Damn, dude, what we missed out on. Oh, amazing. Oh, damn, I zoomed in all the way. Amazing stuff. In addition to the single player story mode, we're planning to support a 2-player online versus mode. I might as well zoom in like this. Over a dozen playable characters will be supported, like I said. Environment, well, the gameplay may have been based on Justice League Unlimited. The environments were based heavily on both the Superman animated series and early 20th century artist Hugh Ferris, who was clearly an influence on the animated series as well, featuring elevated highways, railways, and airships. So, here you can see some footage here of him flying, and it looked very detailed. Like, the buildings look great. You can see a bunch of traffic down there. And the reason why it's blocky is because they wanted to focus on the core mechanics and flesh that out before the actual, art style and everything. So look at that. It looks so cool. I'm just opening up in a bunch of tabs because that is gorgeous. Nice. Okay, so in addition to us just appreciating the visual aesthetic and that it worked well with the animated series style, the layers of motion at every elevation in the city created a city that felt alive no matter where you were. Important in the game where much takes place in the air and with categories of activity in 3 strata: street level, between buildings with elevated trains and roadways, and above the city with Zeppelin traffic. Nothing is ever static or sterile. So nice. Look at that. You can see it in movement. You can see the people and everything. So you can see we spent a lot of time as well as establishing our targets for a city that was alive, full of motion, even in aerial spaces, how much traffic was decided, and that props could be used in combat that were always near at hand. So characters. Okay, so the list of launch characters, as previously mentioned, primarily extremely powerful supervillains as well as grunt level foes from Apocalypse and Krypton, and also Supergirl. Many of these characters will be playable in the Versus mode. There is an intent to release additional characters post-launch. Wow, so the launch slate included Darkseid, Doomsday, Lex Luthor, Power Suit, Solomon Grundy, Supergirl, what the hell was I trying to say? Calibac, General Zod, Ursa, Non, Hank Henshaw, who's Cyborg Superman, Basra, is that Bizarro, I think? Brimstone, Lashina, Stampa, Artemis, Big Bada, Granny Goodness, Mad Harriet, Brainiac, Kryptonian Minion, Soldiers of Zod, Parademon Brawler, Parademon Soldier, and Parademon Elite. And then you've got the Calibac concept model. Calibac looks awesome here too, wow. Got some Darkseid, Livewire, Parademons. Ooh, I like that Parademon. Wow, okay. That looked awesome. And then you've got your Superman concept art here as well. Superman looked very classic and cool. I dig that, I respect it. Not changing the vision. Possibly worth noting that while third-party cloth physics options were appearing on the market at this time, they were still pretty early and not up to what we were looking for in our game. The art resource budget was set aside for Superman's cape was the same as the production budget for Superman's character model. We essentially treated these two parts as full hero character budgets. It's also why when we started to bring early characters of the character in to replace our prototype phase block models, he's no cape yet. His cape only appears in the previous target render, also below, bringing it all together. So here we go, we're gonna watch this in a second. By the end of summer 2008, our pre-production phase ended and we were ramping up into full production, actively hiring to fill key roles, and with a full production plan and scheduled to take us to launch. We created both gameplay prototype video to show stakeholder key mechanics working together, targeting charge moves, building punctures, etc., and also an art target render intending to show the final production visual level. The target render also included a controller overlay to display the gameplay actions that were correlating to the action on the screen. So let's watch, I guess, the gameplay prototype first. Okay. I'm gonna mute it just in case there's copyright, but oh damn, dude, look at that. You could just run as him on the floor as well. That is so cool, dude. Nice. Okay, so that's the gray bubbles that they were talking about. That wasn't really locked on. Oh, and he could yeet cars as well. Oh, dude, hold up. Oh, yo, you could actually straight up go through buildings. That looks sick. So this, your freeze breath, nice. Oh, heat vision, okay. Yeah, that uses up so much of your power meter, I guess. But it just regenerates by itself. That is so cool, dude. You can just grab your opponent and just fly through buildings. And there's the lockdown mechanic. So clearly very early on, obviously. So, oh, okay. Wait, punch him through the building. I want to see it. Do it. Oh, dude, look at that side destruction. That was clean. I love that. That's so cool. Man, this had so much potential. And, you know, we're devastated. But imagine how devastated, you know, the actual devs were. Like Salvatrix. So I think, is this actually General Zod? Yeah, it is. It looks like it, at least. Nice. Wow. 10 times Thanos and Bear superheroes. Okay, and then let's check this out. Just 720p. Alright. Let's check it out. Superman target render. Oh yeah, that's Doomsday. Oh nice, dude, that looks cool. And this is 2008, dude. Oh my god, dude. This is what we could have had. Oh my god. Nah, you're kidding me, dude. Look at this. Yes, dude, let's go. Oh, man. Okay, well, those people are dead. I assume to use X-ray vision to see that there's nobody there. Uppercut. Oh, oh, no, dude. Oh, that hurts. That is so good, but that hurts. Oh my god, 28 minutes already? Holy crap, dude. Oh my god. 28 minutes. We're at the end here anyway. Sadly, trouble was quickly on the horizon. Brash was late in milestone payments, and we soon learned up to 400 million in venture funding that had spun up with were lines of credit that became frozen as the entire global financial market started to panic and then rat. By October, Factor 5 was no longer able to cover payroll, and then everything quickly collapsed. I've said before, this is the one unreleased game in my career that I truly mourn. Everything in the project was going well, and everyone involved knew we had something amazing in our hands. I know a lot that can happen between end of pre and launch, but never ever been on a project that felt this solid at the end of pre-production. It could have been a great Superman game, but more importantly to me, it could have been a great game without Superman. This was never going to be a quick cash-in of a storied IP, but instead of the game that we could be proud that where the core gameplay and the IP enhanced each other. Someday someone's going to make the game Superman deserves, and I look forward to playing it when it happens. And I do agree. This looked incredibly solid. It covered all of the, all of the core mechanics first, and then worried about the art direction after. So we could have had something truly special, and it's a shame. But, somebody sometime could step up. I would really like to see maybe potentially, I don't know, retaking or rebuilding the game with everything like this in mind. I have no idea if that's even possible, but that'd be incredible. Because the animated series Superman it's probably the perfect place to actually, really look into the buildings, mechanics, and power as well. It was really good, so I don't know, man. But let me know what you guys think. I think this had so much potential. Follow Dev Salvatrix over on Twitter. And yeah, just leave a comment, tell me what you guys think of this project. I think it could have been an amazing thing. It looked certainly like really well, like, how do I put it? It just looked very, very fleshed out. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have an absolutely wonderful day. Love y'all. Peace.